Coming up on 5 Minute News. Supreme Court expands gun rights as country reels from mass shootings. Chicago police blocked from chasing suspects on foot. And Trump told Justice Department to call election corrupt. Here's 1-6 committee. It's Friday, June 24. I'm Anthony Davis. In a major expansion of gun rights after a series of mass shootings, the Supreme Court said on Thursday that Americans have a right to carry firearms in public for self-defense, a ruling likely to lead to more people legally armed. The decision came out as Congress and states debate gun control legislation. About 1/4 of the U.S. population lives in states expected to be affected by the ruling, which struck down a New York gun law. The High Court's first major gun decision in more than a decade split the court 6-3, with the court's conservatives in the majority and liberals in dissent. Across the street from the court, lawmakers at the Capitol sped towards passage of gun legislation, prompted by recent massacres in Texas, New York, and California. Senators cleared the way for the measure, modest in scope but still the most far-reaching in decades. President Joe Biden said in a statement that he was deeply disappointed by the Supreme Court ruling. It contradicts both common sense and the Constitution and should deeply trouble us all, he said. He urged states to pass new laws. I call on Americans across the country to make their voices heard on gun safety. Lives are on the line, he said. The decision struck down a New York law requiring people to demonstrate a particular need for carrying a gun in order to get a license to carry a gun in a concealed way in public. The justices said that requirement violates the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote for the majority that the Constitution protects an individual right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home. Meanwhile, New York Governor Kathy Hochul said the ruling came at a particularly painful time, with New York mourning the deaths of 10 people in a shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo. This decision isn't just reckless, it's reprehensible. It's not what New Yorkers want, she said. Chicago police officers will no longer be allowed to chase people on foot simply because they run away or give chase over minor offences, the department said, more than a year after 2 foot pursuits ended with officers fatally shooting a 13-year-old boy and a 22-year-old man. The new policy adheres closely to a draft policy put in place after those shootings and gives the department something it has never had: permanent rules about when officers can and can't engage in an activity that can endanger themselves, those they're chasing, and bystanders. Under the policy, officers may give chase if they believe a person is committing or about to commit a felony, a Class A misdemeanor such as domestic battery, or a serious traffic offence such as drunken driving and street racing that could risk injuring others. Officers won't be allowed to chase people on foot if they suspect them of minor offences, such as parking violations, driving on suspended licences, or drinking alcohol in public. But they will still have discretion to people who they've determined are committing or about to commit crimes that pose an obvious threat to any person. Perhaps most significantly, the policy makes clear that the days of officers giving chase just because someone tries to avoid them are over. Donald Trump hounded the Justice Department to pursue his false election fraud claims, striving in vain to enlist top law enforcement officials in his desperate bid to stay in power, and relenting only when warned in the Oval Office of mass resignations, according to testimony on Thursday to the House panel investigating the January 6 Capitol riot. 3 Trump-era Justice Department officials recounted persistent badgering from the president, including day after day of directives to chase baseless allegations that the election, won by Democrat Joe Biden, had been stolen. They said they swept aside each demand from Trump because there was no evidence of widespread fraud, then banded together when the president weighed whether to replace the department's top lawyer with a lower-level official willing to help undo the results. All the while, Republican loyalists in Congress trumpeted the president's claims, and several later sought pardons from the White House after the effort failed and the Capitol was breached in a day of violence, the committee revealed on Thursday. The hearing, the fifth by the panel probing the assault on the Capitol, made clear that Trump's sweeping pressure campaign targeted not only statewide election officials, but also his own executive branch agencies. The witnesses solemnly described the constant contact from the president as an extraordinary breach of protocol, especially since the Justice Department has long cherished its independence from the White House and steered clear of politics. The hearing focused on a memorably tumultuous time at the department after the December 2020 departure of Attorney General William Barr, who drew Trump's ire with his public proclamation that there was no evidence of fraud that could have changed the election results. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.